and be able to compete with the best graduates around the world. This much we owe our students. And unless we create universities like this, we cannot provide what our students deserve. One thing we all know, given half an opportunity, our students are as good as any in the world. So I'm happy, I'm glad, I am thrilled that a place like North-South University today exists in Bangladesh and is doing such an outstanding job. Congratulations, sir. Let me turn to United Nations. Andrea has already brilliantly talked about what it takes to work in a multilateral organization, and her personal stories were truly, truly very, very inspiring. Although the young lady who introduced me described me as a diplomat, I hasten to say I am not a diplomat. I have been a lifelong university teacher and continue to be so. However, good luck and fortune and being at the right place at the right moment often gave me opportunity to dabble in negotiations and diplomacy, and I'll share a few thoughts about that. For 4 years, between 1988 and 1992, I had the good fortune of being special assistant to Prince Sadruddin Aga Khan, who was then UN head for the reconstruction of Afghanistan. The purpose of telling you that story is, that is when I first became aware of what global legitimacy means. During those 4 years, I traveled extensively in Afghanistan. Every few miles, the territory would change hands and new warlord would be occupying a territory through which our vehicle would pass. It was impossible in those days to go from A to B without paying and securing the permission of the warlords. It was an astounding experience on my part to see how two flags had no difficulty in going from one place to the other. One was the International Committee for Red Cross. Their flag was so respected that no matter where they went, the warlords allowed those vehicles to go. The other was the United Nations. Not only they respected the United Nations flag, no matter on which side of the conflict they were. In many instances, they would give us an escort to escort us through their territory. That is when I began to understand what a global legitimacy means and why the United Nations is so important. United Nations reflects the collective will of the citizens of the world. It is because of that collective will that it represents, it enjoys that legitimacy. And Andrea has already spoken to us how other such organizations also work. But it is important to remember that United Nations is not worth its name if it loses that legitimacy. It must continue to preserve its global legitimacy. Without that, United Nations isn't much different from many other organizations of the world. Why do I say this? United Nations was founded in 1946, if I remember correctly, at a time when nearly 3/4 of the modern states of today did not exist. United Nations was represented by the great powers of that time. In fact, apart from China, there was no Asian representative. There was no South American, Latin American representative on the Security Council, nor in Africa. You had 3 European states and 1 North American. That legitimacy probably was right then. Today, the world has changed. And therefore, it is extremely important that we all put our mind to restoring to the United Nations what its greatest asset is, that is its global legitimacy. Unless the United Nations becomes truly representative of its totality of its membership, I fear that legitimacy, especially as much of the work is done in the UN Security Council, much of the decisions are taken in the UN Security Council. If you add up the membership of the permanent members who enjoy veto, they are a small, tiny population of the world. It is therefore very important that it is broadened. Those parts of the world that are not represented are included. We will need to rethink whether a veto power is essential, and if veto power is essential, is there a way in which the opinions and views of the rest of the world can some way moderate it or influence it, so that United Nations does not become a hostage in the hands of a few powerful countries. These are important questions. These are not most popular questions or comfortable questions to ask, but we have to ask. United Nations right at the moment is debating about reforms. Reforms are important, but reform doesn't just mean expanding the club of the privileged. It means much more than it means giving representation so that the legitimacy that the United Nations enjoys as the conscience of the world is restored. So as you, young friends, meet in the next couple of days to discuss this thing, remember that we are looking to you for ideas how the United Nations becomes more effective. If we want to re-establish peace, United Nations needs to be much more effective, and it will only be effective if it genuinely reflects the opinion of the world. In fact, today, I remember my brief stint at the UN with subsequent development as it happened in other countries, especially Iraq. As I said, we traveled the length and breadth of Afghanistan with never a fear that even a little stone would be hurled at us. United Nations legitimacy gave us that protection. We were protected by that flag and by that legitimacy. Sadly, we also saw, and some of my friends were involved in that, when an entire UN office was blown up in Baghdad, and so many wonderful human beings lost their lives. It only happened. Many reasons for it. One reason was the UN's legitimacy had begun to be questioned. So I would urge all of us to think about that as we go forward. Again, I thank Andrea for sharing her experiences which makes my task a little easier. Most of us, and as I said, I'm not a diplomat, most of us think diplomacy is some high rocket science or technology. Actually, it is not. It is a very, very human and human business. It takes a good person, a good mind to be a great, useful, successful diplomat. In my brief exposure to this world, I was in an effort to negotiate rapprochement between Iran and the UK. On another occasion, I worked for a rapprochement between North and South Korea, and more recently in my own country. Everywhere I found, at the end of the day, what mattered was the human qualities of the people who were sitting around the table. And the way you get to know the human qualities of others is by showing them respect. To imagine for a moment you are better or smarter than those who are sitting on the other side of the table, you have lost the game. Starting point is to respect the other side. Once that respect manifests itself, and once the other side understands that you genuinely respect them, negotiations, dialogues become easy because they are human by that time. And once those are reduced to a human level, everything is possible. There is nothing impossible anymore. The second lesson that I have learned in my short exposure is that we all try to think, I have to win. Diplomacy is one area. You win when everybody wins. So the essence of diplomacy is to create a situation which is win-win for everybody. You might ask yourself, because we are given to thinking in terms of zero-sum game. If somebody wins, the other person must invariably lose. No. Other side does not have to lose for you to win, because different sides attach importance to different things. In those circumstances, there is always room for everybody to win. And that is extremely, extremely important. The third lesson that I learned was, and I'm forgetting it, but it will come back to me. The third thing that is of extremely vital, apart from respecting each other, trying to create a win-win situation, is to enlarge the size of the cake. We always try to fight to get the largest piece of a small cake. The secret is to make the cake big. There are many things that another country is interested in. To them, what they are interested in is much more vital than what you are seeking to gain. So if you enlarge the size of the cake, everybody goes home with a larger piece. And the last point which I learned during our negotiations with India. As I said, my multilateral experiences are limited. I'm much more focused on bilateral issues. The last thing we learned with my negotiations in India was when we went to India, people warned us that Indians are tough negotiators. You chaps are amateurs. They'll take you to the marketplace and sell you many times over, which probably is true. But we changed the entire, we stood all the inherited wisdom on its head. We were told, go step by step. Grab the low-hanging fruits and then address the complicated issues. Again and again, this was the advice given to us. We went to India with instructions from the Prime Minister, and we said, we want across-the-board solution. We will not do one by one. We will not waste our time. We are not here to do that. We want good relations, so whatever it takes to remove the irritations, and that completely changed the dynamics of the negotiations. Because once we demanded to settle everything in one go, it was no longer a marketplace bargaining. What will you give and what shall we give? Basically, we looked at each other and said, we both have problems and let us solve it together. And believe me, that major breakthrough that was made, where issues of 40 years were resolved, in some cases 70 plus years, like those enclaves, all because we took each of these problems as our problem to be jointly solved. And each understood that each is constrained by its own diplomatic, democratic pressures. Each is accountable to the voters. And therefore, we have to go home with an agreement, a settlement which our people will accept. Without that, the settlement will die the moment we go back to our countries. So what I'm really trying to say is diplomacy is a very creative process where it requires a lot of imagination, great deal of humility, and most important of all, and this is my last point, the ability to hear the other side. Most of us enter a room having decided what we are going to say. And we come back after delivering what we have to say. Here we found that you must be able to hear. By hear, I mean both hear and listen. Not just one or the other. Hear and listen. Because unless you understand what the constraints of the other side are, there is no way you will get what you want. Anyway, these are some very obvious, very simple learnings of a person who has not been a diplomat. As I said, circumstances threw me into that, and we found that very helpful. So I end by wishing you all a wonderful diplomatic experience, good negotiation, but good negotiation in good faith, in respect for each other, and always remembering at the end of the day, a successful diplomacy is one in which the people of both sides benefit. With those words, I thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chancellor, for giving me this opportunity to be with you. And Thank you and good night to all of you. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangobandhu.
Thank you so much, sir, for your beautiful and inspiring words. I hope our delegates are motivated just like I am. So now, I'd kindly request our guest of all, Professor Int'l Islam, the Vice Chancellor of NSU, to kindly come and share your valuable words. Thank you, sir.
This shows how much shorter I am from Rizvi Bhai. It also shows how short my speech will be. It also shows how shallow my deliberation will be. All right. Honorable Gohar Rizvi, International Advisor to the Prime Minister, Mr. Azimuddin Ahmed, Chair Board of Trustees, NSU Board, Andrea Roulette Rodriguez, Counselor for Political and Economic Affairs of the United States Embassy in Dhaka, Professor Int'l, the one who organizes all these big things, supervises them on our behalf very competently, Mr. Muhammad Maruf Ibn Wali, the chair of my respected colleagues from NSU academic and administration side, delegates from various countries, participants in the 4-day-long conference, everyone else connected with this conference, and my dear students, ladies and gentlemen, let me start by wishing you a fantastic evening. Now, basically, I want to say 2 or 3 things. First one is, NSU is committed to the production of ethical, competent, enlightened professionals with a global outlook, with the qualities of respect, compassion, and tolerance. We cannot do all of this inside the classroom. That's why, as our Honorable Chair of the Board of Trustees mentioned, we got over 20 clubs where students can satisfy their self-actualization needs. We let them evolve as growing adult individuals. We basically allow them, not allow them, we basically facilitate their participation in various types of activities and hobbies that really benefit them and that's beneficial to the whole academic community, to the country, and to the globe, if I can claim that. My second point will be, United Nations was established in 1945, I think, April 45, with 51 nations. Now it has 193 member states. Obviously, the power relations within the organization have changed, and it would require some change in the arrangements in the United Nations of the United Nations in near future. That's what I believe. The main task of the United States has been keeping peace and ensuring security. The original purpose was to stop a third world war happening. Now, peace and security are threatened when there is disharmony and discord. And disharmony and discord arises in situations where there is a lack of political, social, economic, legal, environmental, and individual rights. Take the case, any country you want to, I don't want to name any, where there has been recent upheavals, wars, communal conflicts. Most of it can be attributed to a lack of mutual respect. Shias cannot respect the Sunnis, Sunnis cannot respect the Shias, and lack of democracy. We cannot sit down and negotiate how we can live together. We cannot go by the majority of the votes. The majority becomes a tyrannical majority, those sort of things. So basically, if we want this world to be a fair one, we must work towards giving political, social, economic, legal, and environmental rights, individual rights to the people all over the world. So, to reestablish world peace, we have to have the current reality of the world reflected in the power relations within the United Nations organization. And we must work, every individual, towards granting other individuals those rights, meaning that we should be enlightened, we should be respectful towards other people's rights. Now, I could go on, but I wouldn't. After those 4 engaging, amazing deliberations, I don't need to speak. My duty is to basically thank people. Our hearty thanks to Honorable Gohar Rizvi for making it possible to come and join us here in spite of his very packed programs. His diary is really tight, I know. I also thank Andrea Brulette Rodriguez, for whom it's not the first visit to this university. She is a friend of ours. Thank you so much for coming. I thank the Moon Club for organizing this mammoth 4-day beautiful conference, and I wish it every success. I thank the Moon Club's every member of the executive and every general member of the club. And I thank you all for being here, listening to those wonderful speeches. I have learned a lot, and I hope all of you have learned quite a bit. And with that, wishing up, let me also thank the friends from media. With that, wishing the conference all-round success. I conclude my speech here. Thank you, everyone. Good evening.
Thank you so much, sir. Delegates, we present to you the Secretary General and the President of North-South University International Model United Nations Conference 2016, Mr. Faisal Rashid San.
Good afternoon, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all in North-South University International Model UN Conference 2016 at my very own Hearthstone North-South University. Yes, you can call me a kid, but today, 16 November 2016, is the best day of my life. The day will be engaged with golden rune deep in my heart, because this is more than just a Model UN conference to me. My heart will always cherish this day. On a day like this, I would like to call myself tremendously fortunate to have Honorable Professor Dr. Gohar Rizvi sir, the International Affairs Advisor to the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, as the chief guest, Honorable Mr. Azimuddin Mohammed sir, Chairperson Board of Trustees, as the special guest, our very own Atikul Islam sir, Vice Chancellor of North-South University, Honorable Andrea Brule Rodriguez, Counselor for Political and Economics Affairs, Embassy of the United States of America, with me. I would like to thank all of the ladies and gentlemen for their valuable time A big thanks to our Honorable Faculty Advisor, Muhammad Maruf Ibn Wali, sir. Professor Dr. Imdadul Haq, sir. Faisal Wali, sir, for their enormous support to make this event happen. Now this entire focus goes to you, audience, and yes, diplomats, yes, my dear delegates and respected executive board members, I'm mentioning you. Thanks a lot for your huge response from the very first day, because your concern gave us more passion to work harder. Each member of North-South University Model UN Nations Club has given their best just to make this conference more impeccable for you. From the very beginning, the honorable founders and the dedicated members of this club had one dream, which turned into a reality in 2015, when North-South University hosted their very first National UN Conference. After the great success of the conference and being considered as one of the best UN conferences in the country, the current executive board of MUN Club has come up with the responsibility of most awaited, which is even international this time. A big round of applause for the Nightingale Medical College and Hospital, Quality Ice Cream, Podda Group, A&J Traders, Fujifilm, Teletalk, Shopnodhara, Bay, Walton, IPDC Spectra for being our reassuring sponsors. Then come to our soothing partners, electronic media partner ATN Bangla, print media partner the Daily Shamokal and Dhaka Tribune, radio partner Radio Next and Radio Dhol, snacks partner Danish, mobility partner Shamoli Poribahon, wardrobe partner Eclipse, logistics partner Woodpecker, food and dessert partner Krispy Kreme and the Red Window, beverage partner Transcom. Thanks to all of you for generosity. This time we have more than 600 national and international participants, including the delegates and DIAS members. 11 committees with the most vibrant agendas of the current world circumstances in the 4-day-long conference. We will be having a global village to give life to the tradition and also an international night, which will be held in Le Méridien. To my dear delegates and honorable DIAS members, we promise you to give you the best hospitality. Your comfort is our main concern. We will be having help desk for you at the plaza, and there will always be volunteers to guide you. So yes, have a great time. Gather as much knowledge as you can. So what do you say? Let's reestablish the world peace. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Sun. And now we'd like to see the organizing visionary leaders who were behind the conference. So we're going to show it in a short video presentation. So there is a really short video presentation that we'd like to show you all. Thank you so much, sir. It's a very short one.
was all for today. Thank you so much to all of you for bearing with us with so much of patience. Thank you so much.
Because within some minutes our plenary will be started. So please be patient and be with us just for some couple of minutes. Thank you so much. From the back door and submit your food coupon to get your food. Thank you. But please be here within 30 minutes because the plenary session is about to start within 30 minutes. Please be here on time. Thank you so much and enjoy your food.